Wisdom shares itself with us, and therefore we are instruments. Each of our traditions is an instrument, each of us as individuals is. But really wisdom and spiritual life have a reality of its own, and they call and they shape and they transform. It can take sometimes decades or centuries for changes to happen. But the whole interfaith movement and our small contribution within it are an expression of this broader movement of the spirit or wisdom seeking to create new ways of expressing itself in the world. The city of Amritsar hosted a world-class gathering of leading figures from Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism on the theme Sharing Wisdom, the case of love and forgiveness. Dalai Lama, at the meeting of religious leaders, said this was the most profound and most intimate interfaith event he had ever attended. He said Elijah is unique.
What is unique about the Elijah Institute and Alon, who is really the visionary behind it, is that he understood that if we really want to take interfaith conversations as far as possible, there is something that academia can contribute to that. And so what we do here, we bring together academics and religious leaders to discuss together questions that are of importance to both groups.
What Alon is doing with the Elijah Institute is getting world leaders together, world leaders of the very highest caliber, also to talk about these issues in deeply open ways, really opening their hearts to each other.
If religious leaders learn from each other, perhaps this experience may translate itself to their communities. They may share something of the meaningfulness and all of the positive implications of the kinds of relationships that they're able to forge under the auspices of Elijah. So that many good things can come out of this kind of work.
Amritsar was so wonderful. You can't talk about Amritsar without talking about Sikh hospitality and Sikh spirituality. To be held in an embrace of a spiritual community that's dialoguing and extending and offering itself. And at the same time, we were literally within a stone throw of the Golden Temple, and the impact of day-long prayer, night-long prayer of hundreds and thousands of pilgrims over hundreds of years. The place is imbued with such power.
I mean, there the theme was sharing wisdom among faith communities, and the way in which wisdom was shared with a sense of respect, love. I mean, these men and women really enjoyed each other's company. They were spontaneous, they were playful, they were fun. I mean, it was this, and that itself was wise.
I really feel this kind of meeting and discuss about forgiveness, or tolerance and compassion. I think these are very, very important.
I think what I learned more than anything in Amritsar about forgiveness is that it is not a quality that a person possesses that stands apart from the totality of the way one lives. In other words, forgiveness, if I can speak of it, is a way of being. It's a total way of life. It has to infuse one's worldview. It is an expression of one's understanding of the universe, an expression of one's understanding of reality.
One of the great Sufi masters of India taught that God can only ever be found in the present moment, that God is the breath inside the breath, that God is only ever found in the smallest increment of time, which is the present moment. And so forgiveness liberates us to live in that place, because it liberates us from the past and it liberates us from the future. And forgiveness then, as a practice, opens a way for us to live in the now.
The skill of forgiveness is a skill of working within the heart, of simultaneously releasing something within and extending something outward. With forgiveness comes release, comes the opening of love, and comes the ability to grow deeper and with greater purity to the source of one's being in one's heart.
Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's about a certain release of anger, a release of hurt, a release of that desire for revenge. It's a way in which two hearts come back together again after they've been separated and estranged.
Forgiveness does not mean you accept what they are wrongdoing. I think Bible mentioned you should anger towards sin, not the sinner. Sinner is concerned, instead of negative feeling, you should feel concern. The actual sort of proper way is the out of sense of concern about wrongdoer and take appropriate action to stop their wrongdoing. So that's meaningful forgiveness.
We need a space where the different religious traditions can think together about the world's problems, where they can aspire, where they can share wisdom, where they can be transformed through that. And it started in Seville in 2003, continued in Taiwan 2005. In Amritsar, the community started consolidating. They started to plan, they started to look forward to what we hope will be a wonderful meeting now in Haifa, where they come together in person for the 4th time. The whole interfaith process is a very deeply transformative process. You start out with suspicion, preserving your boundaries, trying to make sure that you're doing a good job representing your own tradition. And then gradually, in one of the most important stages, the formation of friendship. With friendship comes letting down of boundaries. Then you start to be touched by the other. You start to be inspired by the other. Then the encounter is transformative. It's transformative because you tap into who you really are, but it gets restated in light of the encounter with the other.
We're not just, flying in to eat falafel and talk about what's good about our religions and then run off to our respective communities. We struggle together. We have delightful conversations and difficult conversations. We educate ourselves in the other traditions, and we are educated in our own tradition by the kinds of questions and perspectives and comments that our colleagues bring to the table.
It's an extraordinary privilege to be with these other scholars and to listen to them and to be able to challenge them and to have them challenge me back and to engage in this kind of struggle together of understanding our religious traditions and in the process encountering within myself where some of my intellectual barriers are and having them broken.
We are in a place where we can really talk about very, very difficult questions. We can learn from each other. We can be enriched by each other. And I think at the end of this meeting, we all take something of each other with us back to our own traditions, in my case, back to my college, back to my community, back to the work that I do.
As I was just coming across the border from Toronto into the U.S. and was clearing customs at the airport, the U.S. border guard asked me what I did, and I explained to him, what I do, and explained to him where I was going. And he said, this is never going to make a difference. This is never going to have any kind of an impact. This interfaith bridge building, bringing, Jewish rabbis and Muslim imams and Hindu swamis and scholars and Buddhist monks and Dharma masters and Catholic priests and all these people together, it's not going to make a difference. And I said, well, whether it has an impact upon the larger reality or not, I think we owe it to our children and we owe it to our world to try. I said, look, I've got 5 kids, and when I'm on my deathbed, the one thing I want to be able to say to them is that I really tried. For you and for your friends and for the people that you love, I really tried to do something to make your world a little bit better than the one that was given me.
Bye-bye, Timothy. Bye.
Oh, there you are, Joanne. Oh. Good to see you. God bless you and all the good work you're doing.
I wasn't able to go to Amritsar because I'd just given birth to my son. And I was very brokenhearted because the Dalai Lama's presence, and I wanted so much to be there to see him again. And Therese, who is part of our think tank as well, and who's also a Catholic nun, was sitting at one point in the meeting with the Dalai Lama speaking, and she was just, I think, 2 people away from him, and he was giving his talk. And she suddenly thought of me and my son and how brokenhearted I was not to be there, but that I had this new gift in my life. And she thought, I would love for Vanessa to have something from to send back a blessing for her. But she didn't have anything to have blessed. And so she put her hands in her pocket, and the only thing that she had was her rosary that she herself had been using for a long time. And so she pulled out her rosary, and after the end of the talk, she went to see the Dalai Lama, and she said, would you bless this for Vanessa and for her son? And he did. And so he blessed a Catholic rosary that then was sent back to Montreal in the hands of an Orthodox rabbi and given to me. And that circuit meant the world to me. And I thought, this is how the world should be.
What feeds our present situation? In what way have we inherited bad stuff from previous generations that we need to think through? What do we have to say in fresh ways in order to identify who we are in the world today? What you see as you go on is that there's a way of being religious in the world today that's a different way of being religious than it was several hundred years ago. There's a way of being religious in the world that's being interreligious. Doesn't mean you compromise your identity. Doesn't mean necessarily you become multiple religious identity, but your awareness broadens to include much broader horizons of who is there in religion, how they do it, and that redefines how you are. So I see what these meetings have done for me is to deepen my own way of being in the world and allowed me to share that way of being in the world with an ever larger circle of friends.